also just to become oriented to how benefits work. I think this is always a great and smart opportunity for anyone to join. Valerie and Rob are here with us. If you all want to wave, they are our key partners in every year going through this process. They are part of Arthur Gallagher, and they serve as the insurance broker to Lifeworks. We've been partnering with them for a number of years. So they do a lot of work in going out to look at our plans, working with the insurance companies, working very aggressively on pricing. So they will be leading the open enrollment session today with us. Rob, I think, is going to be watching chat. So if there are any questions, you all can add that there. As a reminder, this is being recorded again, so we can post this for staff that don't have the opportunity to attend, but still maybe want to have a refresh on our benefits this upcoming year. And the open enrollment process will officially open up through our UKG portal next Monday. We are off. It's a holiday. It's Juneteenth. So we do want to recognize that. We will still open it up so that anyone who wants to have that time that day, you can start then. You can start Tuesday, Wednesday, but it'll be open for a full 2 weeks. And we really like to have that flexibility for everybody to have a full 2 weeks to begin enrollment. So we want to recognize that we are closed Monday. Kira from the HR team, our HR manager, will release information on how to start that process. And we'll be doing that probably, I think tomorrow's our goal. Today or tomorrow we'll have something out. So I will turn it over to Valerie if you want to kick us off, and I will go to mute.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Michelle. We will get started. So during open enrollment, like Michelle said, the open enrollment period will start next Monday, June 19th, and run through the 30th. So this is your one opportunity during the year that you get to decide who you want enrolled on your benefits and which plans are best for you and any dependents you're covering. So the only way you can make changes during the year is based on qualifying events. So once your elections are made during this time, they will be effective for that full plan year. Just keep in mind on the only exception for open enrollment as of right now is FSA. We're not holding open enrollment for your flexible spending account at that time since we synced that enrollment up to the calendar year. So that will be later on the end of this year for the 2024 plan year. So with the good news that Michelle shared, all of your benefits are remaining the same this year with the exception of vision, which is going to include 2 plan options. So you get to decide which plan will fit your needs for you and your dependents. So we'll give you another vision option to choose from. So just be sure and make those enrollments by the end of the June. Even if you're not making any changes, go in the system so you can verify who you have enrolled, your beneficiaries, all of that information. So if you do experience a qualifying event during the year, and you can see some examples listed, that does allow you to make changes to who you have enrolled in your plans, and also you can change your medical plan option at that time. Just be sure if you experience a qualifying event and want to make changes, you submit your change within 31 days of the qualifying event. Otherwise, you do have to wait until open enrollment next year due to IRS regulations. The exception to that is a change in eligibility for Medicaid or CHIP. You do have 60 days for that change. So these are our carriers. They are all staying the same for the upcoming plan year. So we'll continue to have the medical and dental available through Blue Cross Blue Shield. Your vision plan will stay through VSP. Your health savings account is administered by WEX, as is your flexible spending account. But again, that enrollment will be at a later date. And then your life and disability, along with your employee assistance program, will continue on through Lincoln Financial. And then you have the option to select voluntary coverages, the accident or critical illness through Aflac, or the Legal Shield or ID Shield through the Legal Shield plan. So online, you will see your SBCs or summary of benefits and coverage posted as you go through the portal. You will be able to download those to get any additional details that you may need to make your selection. And then you'll also have available our benefit advocate services, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. Again, if you have more detailed questions than what I'm answering for you today. But we will be going over 3 different medical options. But before we do, I want to explain a little bit of kind of insurance lingo because you have 2 different high deductible plan options to choose from. And one has an embedded deductible and one has an aggregate deductible. So I want to talk about what that means because it is a significant difference if you're covering dependents. So on your option 1, where you have a high deductible of $3,500 in deductible expenses, if you're covering dependents, one person will never exceed more than that individual deductible amount. So that's called embedded. So if I have myself, spouse, 2 kids, my spouse has a surgery, once his $3,500 deductible is met, then co-insurance will apply at that point. So that's your embedded, where each person has their own, but there is a family maximum. On option 2, you have a $1,500 deductible. It has an aggregate family deductible. So I, as an individual, if I'm only having employee-only coverage, then I will have a $1,500 deductible. Once that's met, co-insurance applies. If I'm covering family members, then the full family deductible will need to be met before co-insurance applies. So once that one person meets the full family, or it can be met by multiple people, but family deductible will have to be met if you are covering any other dependents before co-insurance applies. And then your PPO option that has copays, that is also an embedded deductible, which means one person will never exceed more than that individual deductible amount. So now let's take a look at the details so we can look at individual plus family deductible cost. So on your high deductible plan, that's option 1, it is the $3,500 deductible. So all expenses on high deductible plans apply towards deductible, and you're paying that contracted rate. The rest will be written off as long as you're going to in-network providers. So let's say I have a surgery or a hospital stay. Once I meet $3,500, then Blue Cross Blue Shield is going to pay 80% of the rest of my claims, and I will pay 20%. Once my deductible plus my coinsurance equate to $5,000, then I've met my deductible for the calendar year. So deductibles and out-of-pockets do always run on a calendar year basis. So just because our plan year is renewing in the upcoming month, then our deductible is not resetting until January. So keep in mind that regardless of which plan you're on, preventive care will always be covered 100%. So that's the exception to the rule on high deductible plans. Anything coded as preventive care will be covered at 100%. And the reason I say that is because if I go in, the most common place where it can apply to deductible instead of being covered at 100%, from what I've seen, is on colonoscopies and occasionally an annual exam. So like for colonoscopies, if they find, I go in for preventive, they find something, they then code it diagnostic. It's no longer covered at 100%. It applies towards my deductible. In addition, if I'm going to have my annual exam, I've seen this a little bit in the last few years where primary care physicians, if you're talking to them about other illnesses that you have instead of just your basic wellness exam, sometimes they will change it. Instead of coding it as preventive, they'll code it as diagnostic. So just want you to be aware of those couple of things if you get a bill and you don't know why, because you thought you were having preventive care. But that is how the high deductible plan works. Again, one person will never exceed more than that $3,500 in deductible expenses. If I'm covering dependents, once everyone's deductible equates to $7,000, then it's met for the entire family. Whereas on option 2, with the $1,500 deductible, I'm covering just myself only. I meet the $1,500, then Blue Cross pays 80%, I pay 20%, up until deductible and coinsurance have reached $4,500, at which point the rest is covered at 100% for the rest of the year because I've met my out-of-pocket maximum. Now, if I am covering family on this plan, I will need to meet the full $3,000 deductible first, and then the 80% coinsurance will apply. And then for family out-of-pocket maximum, it is the $68.50 for the full family. So once that's been met, everyone's expenses are covered at 100% for the rest of the year. Okay. Now on our copay plan, so this one works differently than our high deductibles, where I do have copays for primary care and specialists. So if I'm seeing a internal medicine, family practice, or my kids are seeing the pediatrician, that's a $35 copay. All other physicians fall under that specialist copay, which is $70. So we'll have copays on this plan. So which expenses apply towards deductible? Anything done in the hospital, outpatient surgeries, MRIs, CAT scans, things of that nature. In addition, chiropractic care and physical therapy apply towards deductible. So let's say I have a surgery while covered on this plan. I will have my $2,500 deductible. Then the plan will pay the rest of my claims at 70% and I will pay 30%. Now with this plan for out-of-pocket maximum, that includes deductible, co-insurance, and any copays that I've paid during the year. So once all of those add up to $5,500, then it's met for the rest of the calendar year.
It's like, what happened to Kenny?
And then for
If it was
family,
bad, I don't want to know. Just tell me that. He went to the.
there's
I think you need to go on mute, please. Thank you.
for this plan, again, for family, one person will never exceed more than the $2,500 in deductible expenses. But if everyone covered on my plan's deductibles equate to the $7,500, then it's met for the entire family. Now for prescriptions. So for high deductible plans, I will say this is the place where I see the biggest differentiation in cost. I can have a prescription that's a couple of dollars or thousands of dollars, depending upon what I'm taking. So if you're currently enrolled in the copay plan and you're thinking about switching over to the high deductible, I would recommend going to goodrx.com for a medication that you take on a regular basis, plug that in, and it will give you an idea of the cost. It won't give you the exact amount because you will receive discounts as it goes through the Blue Cross system to be processed, but you will know, is this a $10 drug or a $500 drug? So it'll give you, an idea of a low cost or high cost drug, or if it could be in the thousands of dollars, just so you're aware of that and making your decisions when you're deciding which plan may be best for you. If you are on the copay plan, then you will see the various copays listed, depending upon which tier your medication falls under. I will tell you that all the carriers update their drug list every single year, and it always updates for you at the plan year renewal. So if currently you have a medication that's in the non-preferred generic and it moved over to preferred generic, it would go from the $10 copay to the $0 copay, or it could go vice versa. So just to be aware of that, if you go pick up a prescription after that August 1st date and it's a different amount, it's because it moved tiers. It doesn't happen to a lot of medications, but it does happen to some. So just want to make you aware. Another tip I want to give people, for those of you that may be on the copay plan and thinking about switching over to the high deductible, in order to see what you would pay on the high deductible for your doctor visits, you can look back at your prior explanation of benefits that are on the Blue Cross Blue Shield portal that is listed here at the bottom. And you can see what the allowed amount is. So you'll have the billed amount and then the allowed amount. That's the discounted contracted rate for you going in network. So that's what you would have paid being on the high deductible plan instead of the copay, because your costs are different coming out of your paycheck depending upon which plan you enroll in. So the plan benefits affect, which plan may be best for you, as in addition to the premium cost. So you kind of have to look at both of those together. Now for virtual visits, this is available for all of the plans. So you have the option to go to MD Live and have a visit with a primary care physician. These are going to be for minor illnesses, things that you just need a medication in order to get over, whatever the issue is you're having. It would be for a short-term issue, but it's a great alternative to the ER or urgent care, especially if you're enrolled in a high deductible plan. It will be your lowest cost option. In addition, MD Live now also has behavioral health available to you. So those costs do vary, whereas MD Live, it's a set amount. I believe it's still $49. They update that every January, but that's been their contracted rate. And then when you go pick up your medication, you will have that expense at the pharmacy. For behavioral health, they will have different levels of visits, so that cost will vary depending upon what your visit type is. But they do have that available, which is a great resource. Now for provider finders, we want to make sure that you are, trying to stay in network if at all possible. I know there's a couple of situations which we'll talk about in a second, where you're seeing out of network physicians, but you can go to your provider finder. On the Blue Cross portal, there's also cost estimator tools. So you can look at various procedures and by location, and it will give you an idea of the cost of how much that procedure will be when you go in to have it done. Okay. So avoiding surprise medical bills. When you're on a high deductible plan and those bills are coming in, you want to make sure that what you're being billed matches up with what your explanation of benefit shows, because you do receive discounts for going in network. So just match those up when you're finding your doctors online, see if they're in network so you get your best discounts that will apply. In addition, if you're on a high deductible plan, just a tip here, call and ask for discounts. Typically, they will give you, if it's a large expense that you're having to pay, I'd say anything over $300, I would just call and ask. Typically, I've heard from providers that they will give 20 to 25% discount if someone calls and asks for it. I've gotten up to a 40% discount, so it was definitely worth the phone call. I've also been told no when I've called and asked for a discount because it wasn't kind of a high enough bill for them to discount, but it doesn't hurt to call and ask and see if you can save some dollars that way. So these are your medical rates. Your $3,500 deductible option 1 plan is continuing to be paid at 100% by Lifeworks. The other plans had a slight increase in cost. Our increase for the medical plan was very minimal compared to, our overall usage of the plan. It was a fair renewal this year, so the costs weren't significant for Lifeworks or for the employee. And that cost was shared between Lifeworks and the employee. Okay. So I want to go through a couple of claim examples. So, over the last few years, we have seen an uptick in mental health provider utilization. With the onset of COVID and just thereafter, my family included, my daughter started seeing a mental health provider in these last couple of years. So very familiar with the cost of this. If you can find an in-network mental health provider, then, you are just paying the copay on option 3. Of course, on option 1 and 2, the deductible will apply. So you can see an example here of having $120 contracted rate, going 15 visits per year, and then also taking a monthly medication, like 2 generics per month. So if you're prescribed, anti-anxiety or antidepressant medication, that contracted rate, $12 for each. So you can see the total cost incurred at the time of service. But also think about, your annual premium being factored in. In addition, if you're on the high deductible plans, Lifeworks does make a contribution into your health savings account. So you can use those employer dollars to pay for your expenses. So that's a great benefit to you all. I would say a very common place where people use out-of-network providers is with mental health. My daughter included. So it can be costly. If you're seeing an out-of-network provider, they can, and they will, they balance bill you anything above the allowed amount. So you end up paying that full cost of the bill, but only the allowed amount or contracted rate actually applies towards your deductible. So you can see in this option 1, $1,800 goes towards your out-of-network deductible, and then the $1,200 that your balance billed does not count towards anything. It doesn't go towards your out-of-pocket maximum or your deductible. It's just that additional amount you're paying because you are seeing an out-of-network provider, and they haven't agreed upon those discounted rates. You would have your prescription amounts, the pharmacies are in network, so that would still apply at that $12 contracted rate. Just want you to be aware of balance billing if you are seeing an out-of-network provider, and I know it is very common to see one for mental health. So we wanted to give this example just so you could see the cost. Also know that the employer is contributing to your HSA, which is helpful. If you are on the copay plan, you can set aside pre-tax dollars or use your FSA dollars for your expenses. That enrollment again will be towards early December, late November for the January 1 date. But keep in mind, FSA can be used on the copay plan. Okay. So now go through the dental plan. Do we want to open it up to questions first on medical before we move on to dental? Anyone have any questions?
There's one question that just popped up that I don't think has been shared yet. Rob, do we want to share that one out?
Hey, Valerie. There was a question about the FSA when somebody moves from the HDHP to copay plan for that enrollment. If they choose between the two during open enrollment.
Okay, so if I'm on the high deductible plan and I move over to the copay plan?
To the copay, that's correct, yeah.
So I will no longer be enrolled in a high deductible health plan, so I can no longer contribute into my HSA. With that change, I would be.
Good question.
I was going to say I would be eligible, but
would that be a qualifying event? I think is the question.
Right. I know this one. I just have to think about it because it's the tax implications of eligibility. Let me think about that one and I will let you know. I know the reverse answer, but going to the FSA from the high deductible instead of vice versa is a little different. So let me confirm that you would be eligible to then enroll in the FSA at that point. I don't want to tell you yes right now before I'm 100% sure and can confirm that, but I will find out and let you know. If you want to know how it works in the opposite direction though, if you're going from, and this is really important though, because your plan, your FSA is different. If you are currently in the copay plan and want to switch over to the high deductible, you are going to have to wait until the FSA plan year is over before you or Lifeworks can start contributing into an HSA. You aren't eligible to contribute into a HSA if you're still enrolled in an FSA, and we can't stop your FSA plan year since that is on a calendar year basis. We will have to wait until that plan year is over before those contributions can be made starting in January for your high deductible plan.
And then Valerie, we had one more other question about the deductible. Like if somebody's staying on the same plan, their deductible is just going to keep going since it's on a calendar year.
Correct. So no changes. You will keep rocking along on your same plan, same benefits. If you do switch plans, so let's say I'm currently enrolled in the option 2 high deductible and I want to switch over to option 1 and I've met my $1,500 deductible, then starting in August, I will have that additional $2,000 to meet to get me up to the $3,500 for the rest of the calendar year, and everyone restarts January 1st with new deductible amounts. Okay.
Perfect.
That
You just answered the second question somebody just
Okay.
asked, so perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Any other medical questions? Okay, well, we will move along to dental. You do have two different dental options to choose from. So on your dental low plan, you have a $50 deductible, which applies towards your basic and major services. Your preventive care will be covered at 100%. And every person I have covered on my dental plan has $1,500 to use for dental expenses. That resets every January 1st. If I am needing orthodontic care, either for myself or children, then that will be paid at 50% up to a lifetime maximum of $1,000. So that's something that doesn't reset every January 1. I just have that one-time $1,000 benefit to use for ortho care. If you go out of network on this dental plan, then you will be balance billed above kind of the in-network rate contracted amount. So that maximum allowable charge means they're only going to reimburse an out-of-network dentist the same thing as an in-network dentist. So no, if I'm seeing an out-of-network dentist, I will be balance billed on preventive, basic, and major services, along with ortho as well. Okay, now you can see those costs at the bottom. These costs did not change, so these are staying the same. You have the option to select the high plan. During open enrollment is the only time you can switch between the two plans. So qualifying event doesn't allow you to change dental plans like the medical does, but during open enrollment, you can switch high to low, low to high at this time. So this is for someone who has more dental needs, or maybe you or child is in orthodontic care. The plan works the same way as far as
Oh yeah, by the time
preventive.
he's in kindergarten, I expect him to have perfect attendance levels all through graduate. Nah, he won't have it.
The plan works the same way. It just has a higher calendar year maximum benefit. So every person has $2,000 to use on those dental expenses. And then for ortho, $2,000 lifetime maximum. So this gives you higher limits if you know you're going to have some upcoming dental expenses or ortho care. In addition, if you go out of network on this plan, the reimbursement is higher on an out-of-network basis. So you see that 90th percentile at the listed for usual and customary. That means 9 out of 10 dentists bill at or below what they reimburse on an out-of-network basis. So, I'm gonna give you an example for like teeth cleanings, the low plan versus the high plan. Let's say my dentist charges $100 for a cleaning. Most are more than that, but I'm just gonna keep it simple. Let's say they charge $100 for a cleaning, then on the MAC plan, so your low plan, let's say the reimbursement amount is $50. I'm balance billed that $50 difference. On the high plan, they're reimbursed $75. So I'm balance billed that $25 difference. Typically on the high plan for your preventive services, your balance billed probably between $10 and $20 on an out-of-network basis. But once you start getting into basic and major services, if you're going out of network, the high plan would be more beneficial for you because your balance billing amount on the low plan is going to be significantly higher than your balance billing on the high plan. Low plan, not as much reimbursement. Higher plan, much more reimbursement on an out-of-network basis. Okay. So you can see these costs on a semi-monthly basis for the high plan as well. Any question on dental? Okay. This year, you also have 2 different vision options to choose from. So this is your current plan that you may be enrolled in if you've elected the voluntary vision plan. So you have an eye exam copay of $10. Your glasses are $30. You can opt for glasses or contacts. They won't pay for both in the same year. It is one or the other. But if I opt for glasses, then I will have a $130 allowance for my frames. Anything above and beyond that, I'll receive a 20% discount. And then my lenses are covered with my copay, but if I have extras added, like scratch resistant coatings, anti-reflective coatings, they're progressives, things like that, they'll give me a discount on those extras. They just don't cover them in full. If I opt for contact lenses instead, then I will have up to $130 allowance to use for my contact lenses. And then for contacts, they always give us the contact lens exam, fitting and evaluation. For that portion of the exam, you will pay up to a $60 copay. If your provider's amount is lower than that for the lens exam, then you'll pay less than that, but the most you'll pay is $60. So your exam and lenses are covered every 12 months. That will go by your last exam date. So if I have an exam, June 15th this year, I'm eligible for another one after June 15th next year. And then for frames, it's every 24 months based on the last time you purchase frames. Now for the buy-up option, you have a higher allowance. So you would have up to $200 on your frames, plus that 20% discount. Your copays are the same on this plan. Your frequency is the same. But the differences are on your frame allowance, your contact lens allowance. You would have up to $150 for contacts. In addition, they have a program called Light Care, which you can see kind of here in the middle. So you can get non-prescription sunglasses or non-prescription blue light glasses instead of prescription glasses. So they will pay for, the prescription ones or the non-prescription. But if you are someone who, you don't need glasses, but you want some good fancy sunglasses or blue light glasses, there's a $200 benefit here after your $30 copay. So this gives you that $200 allowance. And then you can see your rates here for the buy-up plan on your new vision option. Oh, in addition, on this plan, sorry, I missed one thing on frequencies. The exam and lenses is every 12 months, but the frames are every 12 months on this plan as well, whereas they are 24 months on your current plan. Okay. I did see, I just opened up the chat and saw, asking if there are any differences to be paid for LASIK. LASIK discounts are based on by provider. So when you select your VSP provider, call in and ask what their discount is through VSP for LASIK surgery. It will vary depending upon your in-network VSP provider. Generally, it's going to be around 15 to 20% discount for LASIK, but it can vary by provider office. So you'll just need to call and ask. Also, make sure you're eligible. I had a coworker that wanted to get LASIK and then put all this money aside in FSA at the time and then wasn't eligible for LASIK. And so didn't get to use that dollars and had to use it for something else. But HSA doesn't work that way. I can just roll that money over year. But at the time, he was in FSA. So now let's talk about HSAs with that segment. On your health savings account, if you're enrolled in one of the high deductible plans, it does make you eligible to have a health savings account where you can use pre-tax dollars to pay for medical, dental, and vision expenses for you and your tax dependents. Even if your tax dependents are not covered on your plan here at Lifeworks, you can still use those pre-tax dollars on their expenses because they are your tax dependent. With these plans, there's no use it or lose it provision. So once that money is deposited, whether it's employer dollars or your dollars, those funds will continue to roll over year until you use them. So this is a true savings account that you own. So once funds are deposited, they are yours. If for some reason you leave employment here at Lifeworks, then you take that account with you because that is your savings account. So again, to be eligible, covered under a high deductible plan, you also cannot be covered by a non-qualified health plan. So if I am covered here and also covered by my spouse's plan, but spouse has copays on their plan, that makes it ineligible for me or Lifeworks to contribute into an HSA. In addition, being enrolled in a traditional flexible spending account, I cannot put money in an HSA if I'm still enrolled in an FSA. So that's what I was talking about. If you are switching from the copay plan over to a high deductible, we'll just have to wait until that plan year is over before you can contribute into an FSA. But this also does include your spouse being enrolled in an FSA. So if currently your spouse is enrolled in a traditional FSA plan, you need to wait until their plan year is over before you start putting money into your HSA. Okay, just all these little tax rules with health savings accounts and flexible spending accounts. But Lifeworks does contribute a significant amount into your health savings account for you. So they contribute on a per pay period basis. $50 per pay period, which equates to $1,200 over the course of the year. And then you also have the ability to reduce your taxable income and contribute into your account as well. Between your contribution and Lifeworks contribution, you cannot exceed the IRS maximum, which you will see here. They've already released the 2024 IRS maximums, so you can see what those will be in the upcoming calendar year as well. This is the one thing you can change without a qualifying event. Also want to note that you can change your election for how much you're setting aside anytime during the year. You don't need to have any kind of qualifying event in order to change the amount that you're putting aside pre-tax. You do have to have a qualifying event on the FSA though. Okay, so we're going to talk about the flexible spending account, even though it's not enrollment time, just so, just for educational purposes, because come the end of the year, if you do have questions, maybe they can be answered now. So you're just thinking about that for the upcoming calendar year. So for those of you enrolled in the copay plan, you're eligible for the healthcare FSA. So you can use the pre-tax dollars for medical, dental, and vision. Again, also for your tax dependents, even if they're not covered on your medical plan, up to a maximum of $3,050. So you make your election. Typically, it's going to be probably the beginning of December for that January 1 effective date. You cannot make changes to that amount unless you experience a qualifying event. So, and your event has to correspond with what you're doing. So for example, if I'm getting married or having a baby, I can increase my amount, but I cannot decrease it. So it's just, it has to have that correspondence. If you have a qualifying event and you're wanting to change it, typically we'll have to, take a look at the IRS matrix to make sure, you can increase or decrease based upon what your qualifying event is. In addition, this plan does have a use it or lose it provision. So at the end of the year, if you still have funds left in your account, and this is important for those of you currently enrolled in the FSA plan during our 2023 plan year, if you have money left at the end of the year, you do have that 75-day grace period to finish using your funds. If you haven't used all of your funds by that time, then you will lose them. You do have some extra time to file your claims, but you want to make sure that expense is incurred before the end of that 75-day grace period. This is super important. If you are one of those people switching from the copay to the high deductible, you will want to make sure that you've used all of your money by the end of December. Because if you have any money roll over into that grace period, you have to wait until the grace period is over before you can start contributing into your health savings account. So as long as your account is zero by December 31st, then you and Lifeworks can start contributing into your HSA as of January 1. But unfortunately, if you have any rollover, you can't until that grace period is over. Even if you use the money in the first few days of the grace period, we still have to wait till that grace period is over before you're eligible for the HSA. If you're enrolled in the FSA, you can go onto the WEX website to look at eligible expenses, file your claims, see what your current balance is, all of those good things. And you are issued a debit card on the FSA, just like you are if you're on the HSA. Dependent care works a little differently in that you can't take out more than you have in the account. On the medical FSA, I can use up to my full annual election. You know, the beginning of the plan year, I don't have to wait for those funds to be built up in my account. But on the dependent care, I do. So that calendar year maximum is $5,000. Let's say I have $500 in my account. I submit a daycare bill for $800. I'll be reimbursed the $500. Once I've had more payroll deductions, I'll be reimbursed the rest. Okay. Dependent care is more lenient on qualifying events. So if your child has a qualifying event, for example, they've gone from being in school full time to now it's summertime, your child has had an event, so I'm paying for kind of part-time care during the school year. I need full-time care during the summer. That allows me to bump up my deduction for those summer months. And then once school starts again, I can bring it back down because my child is now only needing part-time care. Now we'll go on. Any questions on any of the other line of coverage I've gone on before we move on to life and disability? I think I see anything.
There's one additional question about a vision plan question.
I do see it. Can you get both prescription regular glasses and prescription sunglasses at the $30 copay in the same year? You can get a discount on the second pair. So your first pair, you're going to pay the $30 and you'll have that $200 allowance. On an additional pair, they will give you the discount. It just won't be covered, you know, by the allowance or the $30 copay. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 20% discount.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go on to life insurance. So Lifeworks provides you a life benefit of $20,000 and then $20,000 for accidental death and dismemberment. So remember to keep your beneficiaries up to date because everyone has this benefit and it's at no cost to you. So we want to make sure your beneficiaries are on file. You have the option to purchase additional life insurance. With this plan, you can purchase in increments of $10,000 up to $500,000, but not to exceed 5 times your annual salary. Like guaranteed issue amounts are in place as a new hire. So if you're not currently in your new hire period, if you are wanting to add coverage for the first time or increase your amount, then if you can add up to 2 increments without completing the evidence of insurability form. So if I'm currently at $100,000 in coverage and I want to go up to $120,000, so that's my 2 increments, I don't need to complete evidence of insurability. If I want to go up to $150,000, then for that additional 30, I will need to complete the medical form, which is called the evidence of insurability. That will go through underwriting to be determined if I'm approved or not based on my medical information. So during open enrollment for yourself and your spouse, you can bump up 2 increments without answering medical questions. If you're covering yourself, then you can elect coverage on your spouse and children. You do have to have coverage on yourself to get coverage on your dependents. And this plan is age rated. So when you go through the system, it will be based on kind of 5-year age brackets. Rates did not change, but if you had a birthday that bumped you into a new age bracket, happy birthday. Unfortunately, as we get older, our life insurance increases. So you will see those new amounts as you go through the system based on your current coverage amount. If you want to keep what you have today, no problem. That continues rolling on with no changes. You don't need to do anything. Okay, so no questionnaires required. Now for disability, should you become disabled, the company provides you with disability benefits through Lincoln Financial. So Your benefits would begin on the 8th day of an accident or illness. You would be paid 60% of your income up to $1,500 per week. Your maximum benefit duration, the max is 11 weeks, but your duration is really determined by your physician. So your physician will state how long you're deemed disabled. So if I am deemed disabled for a 6-week time period, then I'll have my 1-week elimination. My benefits will begin on the 8th day, and I'll be paid 5 weeks of benefit. Now, let's say my doctor is still deeming me disabled after the 11 weeks, then it will go over to long-term disability, which pays 60% up to $7,000 per month. My elimination period is covered by my short-term disability. It can last up till Social Security normal retirement age if my doctor deems me disabled that long. Typically, when you go on long-term disability, they kind of re-verify and check in with you and your physician every so often to see if your physician is still deeming you disabled, and it will continue to extend, and it can go up to Social Security normal retirement age. For own occupation, what that means is if I can't perform the material duties of my own occupation, but I can go do something else, I will receive benefits for 24 months. After that point, my benefits will end if I am able to do something else. But if I'm still totally disabled, again, my benefits will continue until Social Security age. Okay, there is a pre-existing limitation clause on the long-term disability. There's none on short-term. But on long-term, it states anything treated or diagnosed 3 months prior to your effective date won't be covered for the first 12 months. Everything else will be. Okay. Employee Assistance Program. This is also through Lincoln Financial. This is available to all employees and dependents, regardless of if you or your dependents are covered on the medical plan. So everything is confidential. Lifeworks never knows who uses the plan or what it's being used for, but want you to know that all of these resources are available to you. You have up to 5 in-person or by video counseling sessions per year. So that is a good amount compared to other EAP plans. Those 5 visits are free, and it's per issue as well. So, I would have 5 visits. My child would have 5 visits. Maybe they're going through something different later on during the year, then they'll have an additional 5 visits as well. Okay, so there's also a lot of resources online. So I encourage you to take a look at those resources online as well. There's a lot of great things out there available for you. Couple more things, and then we're almost there, guys. So I know this is a lot of info, but a lot of good benefits available to you. So through Aflac, you do have the option to purchase accident insurance. If you are accident prone or you have a child that plays sports or is accident prone, maybe a good benefit for you. I added it last year for my kids because my son started playing sports, and just in case. So this works differently than your medical plan, where your medical plan, they pay the doctor or, your provider, the hospital, whereas these benefits are paid directly to you. So if I take my child into an urgent care visit because he had an accident, they're paying me a $200 benefit. If he needs crutches, they're paying me a $100 benefit. So appliances can be up to $500, but crutches, it's a $100 benefit. So you can see the various amounts that you are paid out depending upon, what services are needed for that accident. This plan does have a wellness benefit. So just for going and getting your preventive care exam, you're paid $50, and that is payable once per covered person per calendar year. So for others covered on your plan, you can get that benefit for them as well, as long as they go and have their wellness exam. So these are your costs. And then this is information about filing claims. And now we'll go over to critical illness. So for this plan, you can elect either a $10,000 or $20,000 benefit. Should you be diagnosed with one of these critical illnesses, then you would be paid that 10 or 20,000, depending upon what you've selected. If you're covering spouse and children, it's a 50% benefit of your amount if they are diagnosed with one of those conditions. This plan also does have the wellness benefit, so you can be paid $50 for this plan as well for having your preventive care exam. There is guaranteed issue and no pre-existing waiting period on this plan. And then these are your rates. It is age rated. So again, it is based on your age. If you did move into a new bracket, you can see what those costs will be. Okay. And then your legal plan. This was implemented last year. I'm not sure how many of you have used it. I think it's a great resource for you all, a great plan, just for the will portion alone. But with the legal services plan, you can elect it for yourself or for family. It's the same cost. And then for the ID Shield, it's an additional cost for family. But on the legal plan, they will review up to a 15-page contract, give you legal advice, consultations, write letters or do calls on your behalf, in addition to the will prep. So for the will prep, I've actually had mine and my spouse's done through Legal Shield. So they'll do, I think there's 4 different documents that are included: your will, your power of attorney, living will, and there's one more that I can't think of the name of, but they have you covered. Also, any type of family or domestic services are available. So they have a lot of resources available to you through this plan. And then the ID Shield, let's see if we've got it on the ID theft protection. They will monitor all of your things, your date of birth, your social, passport number. They will also monitor credit cards if you give that information for them to monitor. I know you generally have that protection, through the credit card companies if someone gets your card number and you have to do a dispute. But I wish I had this several years ago. Someone did use my social to open up utility services at a house that I've never lived with, someone I don't even know. So they would have helped fill out all the forms that I had to complete in order to prove that that was not me. I was not living at that location, and all of those fun things I had to go through in order to get that charge taken off of my account and my credit. Okay. So they will help you with those ID theft protections. There's a discount if you do buy both, so you can see the combined amount at the bottom.
Hey Valerie, we had a question about the legal shield on the family legal. Is there a limit on the children's age? Can adult children be covered on the family
I
legal?
believe it is up to age 26
Okay.
for kids, but that is one I will also confirm. I'm pretty sure.
I think so as well.
So that's Janelle. I will get back with you on that. I'm pretty sure it's 26. Here's your contact information. Yes, this slide deck will be shared. You also have this information in your benefit booklet as well, should you need to reach out to one of the carriers. But we at Gallagher have a benefit advocate center team available for you all, so we can answer any kind of benefit questions, claim questions, anything benefit related that you have throughout the year. You can reach out to our benefit advocate center team and they are happy to help you. You can either call or email. The exception to this is enrollment in your UKG system. So they can't help with system type questions. You would want to direct those to HR. But if you have any type of detailed benefit question or you have some claims that you're not sure if they were processed correctly, please reach out and we are happy to help you with that. Can you hear that? I forgot there was a recording to this. So on Alex, I don't think you all could have heard the recording, but with Alex, super fun little tool for you to use just to see if the plan that you are enrolled in, is the recommended one for you based upon your usage and your needs. So you can go on and, tell Alex, select if you're just covering yourself or spouse and kids, what type of utilization you have for medical expenses, prescription expenses. And based on all of that, it will give you a recommendation as to which plan fits your needs financially, kind of best scenario. If you don't agree with Alex, you can ask why, and it will give you a breakdown as to your estimated costs of what you're paying out of pocket at time of service when you're having medical services done, plus in addition to what you're paying for the plan. So it takes premium into account plus your utilization of what you're paying for medical care during the year. Okay, to give you that recommendation. So I encourage everyone to check it out each year. Medical needs change, sometimes yearly. If you have a dependent that's having some additional needs this next year, you're going to have an upcoming surgery, whatever it may be, it may give you a different recommendation. And then now for enrollment. So we made it through all the benefits and now it's enrollment time. So this is a passive enrollment, which means if you don't go into the system, then everything will roll over. But we encourage everyone to go in and check to make sure that you are enrolled in what you want to have for the upcoming plan year. Your dependents are covered that you want covered. Check your beneficiaries just to make sure you don't need to make any changes. So this will show you, you'll go to the home page and you'll select open enrollment once the system is open on Monday. So it will be open from Monday until the end of June. And that is it. So we made it. I know it was a lot of info, but let me know if you have any questions on any of the information.
There is one hand that I see up for, looks like Michelle. I don't know if you still have a question, Michelle, that you wanted to ask.
No, I'm good. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to find out, Janelle, your answer to your question real
Hey,
quick on the
Valerie,
page.
Valerie, I found it. I found the summary and I just posted it in the chat. It's unmarried, dependent children under 26 living at home, and then full-time students up to age 26 or physically or mentally disabled dependent children.
Thanks
But
so much.
I put that in the chat. So anybody wants
Thank
to
you,
look at that.
Rob.
You're welcome.
And Valerie, you'll send us the recorded version of either this one or the one that we do next week so we can post that. Some people may even want to go back and listen to parts of it just to absorb more information.